A new set of polls from AtlasIntel shows Donald Trump winning the Electoral College with 290 Electoral College votes to Kamala Harris's 248 Electoral College votes. Welcome to On Point Politics, and today we're going to be breaking down the 7 swing state polls that were conducted by AtlasIntel. Hit the like button and subscribe for more content just like this, and make sure to go to the description down below to donate to our funding for the pollster that we sponsor on the channel, SoCal Strategies. We do need help raising money for polling that we want to conduct starting on October 5th. We've raised about $3,000 so far in the past about 3 or 4 days. So we want to reach a goal of about 15,000 to up the sample size on the polling. So any support would actually be greatly appreciated. Now, going back to the map here, we see that Donald Trump in Wisconsin, I believe he's up by about 1. He's up in Pennsylvania by 3. He's up in Michigan by 4, which was the most shocking. And actually, Mike Rogers is up by 6 points in the Senate race over there, which is insane. Arizona, Trump is up by 1. Nevada, he's down about 2. North Carolina, he's actually down 3. And Georgia's about a statistical tie, with Trump narrowly being ahead. Now, you may say, okay, well, Donald Trump is ahead. And it's kind of funny because what's pretty interesting about these polls is that they actually oversampled college-educated voters by a ridiculous amount when they weighted at the end. And we're going to be breaking down some of these crosstabs. So the first state on the map is the state of Arizona. This is the first one that they did. They went over here and essentially, you know, the female male vote is all right. I mean, if we go to the AP vote, cast here from Fox News, the Fox voter analysis from 2020, we'll see that roughly, give or take, men are about 48% of the electorate to women 52%. And if we look now, they actually did understate the men's support, which is kind of interesting. So that's being understated. And not only that, we actually see in the state, this is what's very fascinating. This is why Donald Trump is going to outperform the polling data. Look at no college degree. It was at 64% in the 2020 election to 36%. They weighted, or essentially it was 64% non-college, 36% college degree. Now we have a 51% electorate of college degrees to 49% non-college. Guys, that is a ridiculous, I'm talking about unfathomable oversampling of college-educated voters. The fact that he's up only 1, he's up 1, and they still oversampled college-educated voters by like an extremely ridiculous amount tells me that they're in deep-ish. They're deep. Because if they were to reweigh the party, or essentially reweigh the education level, Donald Trump would probably be leading this poll by the margin that I'm suggesting. And not only that, guys, look at these crosstabs. Look at this, guys. Kamala Harris winning independents by 20-something points in Arizona. I mean, it's just kind of ridiculous, to be honest, in my opinion. I don't really think that really makes a whole lot of sense, in my personal opinion. And we see here, for whatever reason, when you look at the independent vote, when you look at the leaning of Republicans and Democrats, Joe Biden did win them by quite a bit last time. But this is basically insinuating that Donald Trump technically does slightly improve with the independent vote. He does roughly. What's pretty interesting here is that they're insinuating that Kamala Harris gets more Republicans than Trump gets Democrats. That's kind of fascinating there too. But in the same poll where he's losing independents by a little bit less than what he was before in the last election, you see he's winning the black vote in Arizona by 20 points, which they are a pretty low sample of the electorate in this poll. I mean, they're only like roughly about 2%. So it is it could fluctuate quite a bit. But when we go up here, you can see there were about 4% of the electorate back then. So again, it's a little bit iffy. And you see here that right now, apparently people who didn't vote are breaking for Kamala like 2-1. That doesn't really make a lot of sense based off the national data we've gotten. And supposedly Trump is performing worse with Hispanics in this matchup compared to what he got last time, which also doesn't really make a lot of sense. They're insinuating that he's going to do 8 points worse with Hispanic voters when Donald Trump in their national poll is getting a really decent amount of Hispanic voters, more than what he did in 2020. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense when you frame it that way. We see here with the Harris v. Trump matchup, Trump is up 1 in Arizona, but again, a huge oversampling of college-educated voters to the point where I can bet you he's going to outperform this poll 100%. If this is one of the more accurate pollsters, and they have that high of a oversampling of college-educated voters, and he's still up by 1, he's probably going to win Arizona by 5 to 6, like I've been saying. Georgia is another really big problem. Look at that. Literally a 2-point margin with college-educated voters leading. And in 2020, we see this. And look at that split between the... we'll go ahead and find it. But let's see where it is, actually. I'm trying to find where it is. But it's pretty interesting. Look, 60% no college degree, 40% college degree. Guys, yes, there could be a shift where they're slightly more college-educated, but not a 20-something point shift to the college-educated. It's not going to be that high. So they are very much overestimating college-educated voters by quite a bit. I mean, by a pretty decent amount. And if we look at the white vote, it's about 64%, and blacks are about 26%. That's a few points lower than what they were before. So that's another interesting thing to look at as well. It seems like the Hispanic electorate's higher, but if African Americans, if you're not getting anything close to 30, you're in deep trouble there. And looking at the white vote in the state, I mean, if we look at that, 69 to 29, this is saying here, this poll is saying that Trump's going to do worse with white voters in the state of Georgia, and that may come from the fact that there is an oversampling of white college-educated voters. Like, it's just the truth. And the Hispanics, he does better. With African Americans, he's still getting 22%. So even in a poll, like, he's doing that well, and there's a huge oversampling of college-educated, and he's still tied in the state, which to me tells me he's probably going to win it by 5 or 6 as well. Looking at this, let's go to the next state. By the way, Biden's approval rating is like abysmal in all the swing states. It's like horrendous. And the top issues are inflation, U.S. economy, and immigration. Abortion is like, I guess you could put it into healthcare, but like really, it's not even that much of an important issue. Michigan was a little better in terms of its weighing for party ID. If we actually go to Michigan, let's go ahead and find the breakdown for Michigan. If we go ahead and look for the non-college has college degree, look at this. They're still putting it at like 60-40. So it's still to the left of what it was in 2020, which it may be to the left by like a point or two. It's possible. But even when you have a college educated or non-college educated, when you have an education sample that's actually more accurate to what the last election was and what it will probably be, you get a Trump +4 result out of the state. Like, that's incredible. And I think they may even be overestimating. Let's look at that women's sample. Yeah, look, they're even overestimating women here by a bit. And if we look at the age groups, we actually see they're also overestimating young voters as well in the crosstabs too. So that's also something interesting to think about. And they're undersampling seniors. So again, another interesting thing to think about. They're also undersampling certain senior groups. And look at this. He's up by about 4. And I think it's 4. Yeah, he's almost up 4 points, guys, in Michigan. That's crazy. And look at Mike Rogers. He's up by almost 6 points in the Senate race. Like, he's outrunning Donald Trump with... And notice the state that they actually weighed the college education level to the most accurately compared to 2020. Trump actually has the biggest lead. So that literally just proves my entire point. Looking again, immigration, U.S. economy, inflation, like it's the same and almost the same in every state. It's the same in every single state. Now, looking at Nevada, what's pretty interesting about this one is they weighed properly for education in this one. That wasn't really the problem here. They actually did weigh it properly, in my opinion. Let's go ahead. Did I pass it? Let's go ahead. Yep. Okay, right here. 70-30. So 70 non-college, college degree 30. They actually weighed for a proper sample here. But the problem is their sample is like D plus, it's like D plus 7. They have like a D plus 6, D plus 7 sample in the state of Nevada. And that's not what happened in the state at all in 2020. If we go over here and actually look at the lean, Republicans are actually up by 1 when you lean all of them together. So that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, in my opinion. Like, it really just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Biden took advantage of winning independents in the state. That's how he was kind of able to win it. And so, yeah, that's a problem that they're weighing this heavily against the Republicans. That's why you probably get such a left-leaning result out of the state. And if we look at this, it's even more confusing because Kamala Harris apparently is like winning like Donald Trump's getting 5% of Democrats, but independents are tied. So that's also interesting as well. White voters 56-42 for Trump. If we go to the state of Nevada and look at the racial breakdown there, I mean, he won the white vote 53-45. So he's improving with whites slightly there. We can see that African Americans 79-19. We see that Donald Trump does improve there as well. Hispanics, we can see in the crosstabs 45-42. Now, if we look at the crosstabs, you see that it actually has Donald Trump doing worse with Hispanics. And I think they did get a Harris +2 result, which is what the state was last time. So again, very, very interesting stuff. In my opinion, they have been oversampling younger voters and they've been undersampling senior voters. That's also a little bit of a problem too in the race. And when we look here, again, this is another interesting one. We look at this and we see in the next state, North Carolina, this is a bad one, guys. Look at that college degree. Look at that education sample. 53%, basically 54 to 47% electorate in terms of education. And if we go to North Carolina, guys, that is not the breakdown of education, like not even in the slightest. Look at that. No college degree, 62% to college degree, 38%, guys. Like, there is no way that's like, it's just not possible. There's no way this happens. The electorate in college education is not going to net shift 40 points to the left, or at least 40 points towards college degree in a singular cycle. Like, that just doesn't happen. And they actually have a pretty Republican sample here. The problem is they oversampled college educated voters by like a ridiculous amount. Their racial weightings are probably not bad. We can go over here and see what they were. 75%, so they're weighing for a slightly less white electorate there. African Americans a little bit lower. They're weighing for Hispanics a lot higher in the state, which is interesting. Looking at, for example, the next state, this is another one that it's like, okay, well, looking at Pennsylvania, 53% college educated to 47% non-college. I mean, guys, that is also not the breakdown in the state of Pennsylvania in the slightest. And Kamala Harris is doing better with that group. And the fact that they're oversampling the college educated voters to be the majority of the electorate and she's losing in the poll is a horrible sign for her. She should be leading that poll by double digits if she was that popular, but she's not. Look at no college degree. 63% of the electorate in 2020 to Democrats, or at least to college degree 37. Look at that. And they have it backwards by a little bit less than that margin, but it's still such a ridiculous weighting there that it's not even funny. And look at that Democrat sample there in Pennsylvania. It's like a D plus, like, look at that. It's like D plus 9, basically. A D plus 8 sample in Pennsylvania. Like, that's pretty ridiculous, in my opinion. And all that being said, McCormick is barely behind, too, which is fascinating. And looking at the last one, Wisconsin, here, again, let's look at the Wisconsin breakdown for the college educated. Let's look at that one. I want to see this. So looking at this here, 65% non-college to 35%. Guys, they weighed it to only like college, non-college plus 5. Like, that's a horrible sample. They have Democrats ahead in the sample in Wisconsin, which is already a big mistake. The electorate there was about R plus 5. So we can actually look at these crosstabs instead to kind of see where that's kind of holding up, because this might be a little bit better. Look at that lean rep, 51% to 44% Democrat. And here they're waiting for Democrats to be ahead of Republicans. Like, another bad sample. And he's still up by 2. He's up by 1 or 2 points in the state, which is crazy. He's, even with this bad of a sample, he's still up. And they've been relatively within the margin of error in the last cycle in either direction in some of these states. And so the fact that they've oversampled college educated voters by like a ridiculous amount in all of these states, and he's leading or competitive in most of them, tells me that Kamala Harris is going to have a very rough time on election day, and makes me a lot more confident in my prediction of what I'm putting out right now. And so if you guys did enjoy this video analyzing the latest AtlasIntel polls, make sure to go ahead and hit the like button and to subscribe. If you want more content just like this, make sure to go ahead and go to betonline.com. You can bet on the presidential election odds. If you go to the politics section here, you can bet on that. You can also bet on where the states are going to go, the margins of where the states are going to go, as well as the House of Representative elections, certain districts, as well as the U.S. Senate elections.